The horizon burned violet when the core ships came. They arrived without warning, shadows eclipsing the twin suns of New Bastion. Their hulls glimmered like obsidian glass, their engines humming a tone that made the air itself ache. Captain Elias Thorne stood on the southern ridge, a rifle slung across his shoulder, teaching his daughter to steady her aim. Amara's small fingers gripped the wooden stock, her breath quick and uneven. "Slow down," he said softly. "Breathing controls the shot, not the trigger." She nodded, tongue peeking from the corner of her mouth, and fired. The can rattled, missing by inches. Elias smiled faintly. "Better. You corrected the wind this time." "Will I ever shoot like you, Dad?" she asked, brushing a stray lock of hair from her eyes. He crouched beside her. "You'll shoot better than me. I learned to fight because I had to. You'll learn because you want to." Amara's laugh was small and bright. Then her eyes drifted upward. "Why are the stars moving?" Elias turned. The sky had split open, 5 massive ships descending through the clouds like gods made of shadow. His pulse froze. The Vkor Dominion hadn't set foot on New Bastion in over a decade. He grabbed Amara's shoulder. "Inside. Now." The first beam struck before she could move. A column of white fire tore the horizon apart. Soil turned to glass. The sound, low, endless, rolled through the valley like thunder scraping against stone. When the light cleared, the nearest settlement was gone. Elias's military instincts took over. "Move!" he barked, scooping Amara into his arms. Dust and static filled the air. Sirens wailed across the colony as orbital defense cannons came online, too late to matter. He sprinted toward their bunker carved into the ridge. The ground shook under each step. A new beam lanced downward, closer, targeting movement. They dove inside just as the bunker door sealed shut. The world outside roared. Elias pressed Amara against his chest. Her small heart pounded in sync with his own. "You're safe," he whispered, though he didn't believe it. "Dad, who are they?" He didn't answer. The Dominion hadn't forgotten humanity, they had just waited. A voice cut through the calm static, formal and venomous. "Human Colony New Bastion. This is Admiral KROX of the Vkor Dominion. You are in violation of Containment Code 37C. Prepare for compliance." Elias's jaw locked. "Containment," he muttered. "That's what they call it now." Outside, the colony's meager fleet rose like insects against Titans. A dozen defense ships, relics of the Earth Exodus, opened fire. Blue plasma bolts streaked upward, vanishing into the Dominion shields without effect. Inside the bunker, Amara clung to his sleeve. "They're coming here, aren't they?" "Yes," he said, voice low. "But they're not taking you." The door console blinked. Unauthorized override. Someone, or something, was accessing it remotely. "Stay behind me." He aimed his rifle at the entryway as the metal hatch hissed open. 3 Dominion troopers entered, tall and insectoid, armor pulsing with green veins of energy. Their translator units buzzed. "By order of Admiral KROX," the leader rasped, "the child is to be taken for evaluation." Elias raised his rifle. "Over my dead body." "That can be arranged." They moved fast, too fast for human eyes to follow. Elias dropped the first with a controlled burst to the thorax. The second lunged. He sidestepped, slammed its helmet into the bunker wall, and fired point-blank. The third fired back. Blue plasma grazed his shoulder, searing flesh. He gritted his teeth and squeezed off 2 rounds, dropping it. When he turned, Amara was gone. The air shimmered. A transport beam flickered where she'd stood, leaving only a faint metallic scent. "Amara!" His voice broke. The bunker fell silent. He stumbled toward the empty space, blood dripping from his arm. His hands shook. He'd seen teleport extractions before, precision snatches, no debris, no trace. She was alive, but gone. The comm crackled again, this time with a deeper voice. Cold. Amused. "Captain Elias Thorne," Admiral KROX said. "You still breathe. I expected better of a species so fond of defiance." Elias glared at the ceiling. Bring her back. She is exceptional, KRYX continued. We detected a genetic anomaly, an echo of the old human war code. She will be studied. Treated well, if you remain rational. Elias slammed his fist into the console. If you hurt her, you will do nothing, KRYX interrupted. Your relics, forgotten, quarantined, irrelevant. Consider this mercy. The transmission cut. Elias stood motionless, breath shallow, vision tunneling. Mercy. That word again. He stared at the flickering lights on the control panel. Then at the wall, a concealed panel of reinforced alloy, sealed since the Exodus. He pressed his palm against the biometric scanner. It blinked red, then green. The wall retracted, revealing a narrow chamber. Inside, beneath layers of dust, rested a shape draped in black fabric. The skull mask, a relic from the forgotten wars, a weapon designed to amplify human neural aggression, banned for its tendency to consume the wearer's sanity. He ran a hand across its surface. The metal was cold, almost alive. You promised I'd never touch this again, he whispered to no one. From the calm, faint laughter echoed, KRYX still transmitting on a silent channel. You can't fight the Dominion, human. You don't even have the strength left to stand. Elias's gaze hardened. You're right, he said softly. Elias Thorne can't. He lifted the mask. Its inner surface shimmered, connecting with his neural signature. The lights in the bunker dimmed as the system came alive. Voice identity confirmation. Captain Elias Thorne, Human Command Authority reactivated. System online. Skull protocol initialized. A distorted voice filled the chamber, low and calm. It's been a long time, Captain. Elias exhaled slowly. Too long. The AI, Spectre, responded, its tone balanced between familiar and ominous. Your vitals indicate rage levels exceeding control thresholds. Good, Elias said. I'll need it. As the mask sealed to his face, his world sharpened, colors dulled, focus intensified. Memories of battlefields he'd tried to forget surged back. The fear that had kept him human slipped away like ash in wind. He reached for his rifle, now interfaced with the armor's targeting suite. Objective, Spectre prompted. Retrieve my daughter. And secondary? Erase anything between me and her. Outside, the storm of invasion continued. Human defense lines broke, ships fell from orbit, and the Dominion broadcast their victory to every listening world. But beneath the burning sky, in a forgotten bunker on a forgotten planet, something ancient stirred again. Elias stepped out into the night. The mask's optical slits glowed faint red, reflecting fire and ruin. Spectre, he said quietly. Let's remind them what they buried. As you wish, Captain. The visor shimmered. Systems armed. Somewhere far above, Admiral KRYX felt a chill he could not explain. And for the first time in centuries, the Vkor Dominion would learn what real fear meant. The alien mothership drifted in silence over the shadowed curve of Earth, a cathedral of black metal gleaming with reflected starlight. Inside, the atmosphere was humid and cold, heavy with the scent of oil and ozone. Human technology had never achieved anything remotely close to the ship's impossible size. It was a moving continent, a floating empire. In the observation chamber, Admiral Vecker stood before a circular window that displayed Earth in its full blue glory. His golden carapace armor shimmered faintly in the low light. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he turned to the small containment sphere floating beside him. Inside, a little girl sat cross-legged, clutching a small fabric bunny. Her name was Lila, the human child taken from her backyard in Oregon. You will tell us, Vecker's voice rasped through a translator unit, what your species fears. Lila didn't answer. Her brown hair was tangled, her face streaked with dried tears. But her eyes, those steady, unflinching eyes, unsettled Vecker. She didn't look away. She didn't tremble anymore. I said. You're the one who's scared, Lila said softly. The translator glitched as Vecker's claws clicked in irritation. Your kind destroys planets for resources. You burn your own air. You breed chaos. We study you so we may control your infection. You can't control my dad, Lila murmured. Vecker tilted his head. Your progenitor? He is irrelevant. Our fleets cover your world. No human can breach our perimeter. Lila hugged her bunny tighter and whispered something only she could hear. Dad's coming. Back on Earth, John Keller crouched beside a half-buried ruin in northern Iceland, snow whipping across his worn combat gear. The black skull mask in his hand reflected faint auroras above, an experimental tactical interface developed by Earth's Shadow Division, long thought decommissioned. John had helped design it, a neural combat AI interface fused to its wearer's synapses. It was banned for a reason. It turned soldiers into something else. Behind him, 2 surviving soldiers from his old unit waited nervously. John, satellite scans confirm the alien mothership's low orbit over the Pacific. That's not a rescue op, that's suicide. John slipped the mask over his face. The world went black, then pulsed with data. Heat signatures flared like stars through the snow. The AI's voice whispered in his head, calm, feminine, clinical. Interface online. Human combat restrictions disengaged. Not a suicide, he muttered. It's a retrieval. John. She's up there, he said, voice steady now. And they'll learn what fear really means. The AI's systems began to sync. It didn't just enhance, it rewrote reflexes, weaponized instinct. His heartbeat slowed. His pupils constricted to slit. Somewhere deep inside, the human part of John tried to protest, but the father part was louder. On board the alien mothership, the command bridge shimmered with alien architecture, all curves, light, and pulsing veins of blue energy. Vecker was reviewing the planet's broadcast transmissions. The humans had gone eerily silent. No retaliation, no communication. It was as if the entire species was holding its breath. Then, one of his lieutenants hissed, "Admiral, an anomaly has breached the outer atmosphere. Unidentified vector. Not one of ours." Vecker frowned. "Destroy it." "Negative, sir. Our scanners can't lock on. It's moving erratically, too fast to track." On screen, a flicker of static. Then an object, small, sleek, burning through atmosphere like a falling meteor, tore through their defense grid. Dozens of automated turrets fired plasma bolt. None hit. The object blinked in and out of radar, like it wasn't fully there. Visual confirmation, a crew member growled. The display zoomed. A human silhouette stood on the hull of a descending dropship, armor black as night, wearing a skull mask that reflected the alien stars. Vecker leaned forward. "What is that?" The ship landed on the outer bay deck with a shockwave that rattled the chamber. Airlocks exploded open as John stepped into the corridor, his mask glowing faintly with white light. Alien guards swarmed, their plasma rifles humming. John didn't draw his weapon. The first alien lunged and froze mid-motion. The skull mask shimmered, projecting a pulse of bioelectric feedback. The alien's nervous system overloaded. It collapsed, smoke rising from its armor. Another tried to fire. John was already behind him. A strike to the throat, silence. The third didn't even see the knife. The AI's voice was calm. Target suppression, optimal. Estimated life expectancy of host, 42 minutes if continued exposure. John didn't care. He moved forward, room to room, cutting through the ship like a shadow. The corridors pulsed red as alarms screamed through the mothership. Vecker roared in fury. "That thing is a human." "No, Admiral," said his second-in-command. "That is something else." Lila heard the alarms echoing through the corridors. She pressed her ear to the containment field. For the first time since her capture, she smiled. "Dad," she whispered. The guards outside her chamber argued in their guttural tongue. Then, silence. The door hissed open. Smoke drifted in. A black shape stepped through. "Lila," said the modulated voice. She ran forward as the containment field flickered off. He caught her easily, holding her close. "You came," she said into his armor. "I told you," he whispered. "No one takes you from me." For a moment there was peace, until the deck trembled. Vecker appeared at the far end, massive, armored, claws glinting like knives. "You cannot win, human. You've invaded the flagship of the Dominion. There are thousands of us." John set Lila behind a barrier. "Then they'll all have to learn." He raised his mask. The skull pattern rippled with a shifting, burning light. Vecker stepped forward, snarling. "What is that technology? What are you?" John's voice came low, steady, almost gentle. "I'm just a father." Then he moved, faster than sight. The lights died. The alarms stopped. And for the first time in the history of the Dominion, the sound echoing through their sacred halls was not of command, not of victory, but the sound of a terrified alien scream. The Dominion flagship drifted in silence above Earth's orbit, its once glowing corridors darkened and fractured. Smoke coiled lazily through shattered halls. Systems flickered. The once proud command bridge, the heart of 1,000 conquests, was now a graveyard. Admiral Vecker stood in the center of the ruin, his armor scarred and cracked. His once perfect control over the ship had dissolved into chaos. Communications were dead, and thousands of his crew had vanished. The security feeds were corrupted. Nothing but static, except for one repeating frame, a black skull reflecting their own terrified faces. "Report," Vecker barked, his voice trembling despite himself. A trembling aide, the last of his officers, stammered, "We've lost Central Command, Admiral. He's not human anymore." Vecker's claws clenched. "He's flesh and blood. No creature can defy our dominion. Find him." The aide nodded, rushing out, but didn't make it far. The lights flickered and his scream was cut short. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Vecker turned, scanning the dark corridors. "Show yourself, human coward!" From somewhere deep in the ship, a voice replied, distorted, metallic, but calm. "I'm not hiding." John stepped out of the shadows. His armor was scorched, his mask cracked along the jawline. Faint light from flickering panels reflected in the eye sockets of the skull mask. Behind him, Lila stood clutching her stuffed bunny, her gaze locked on the massive alien admiral. "Get behind me," John whispered. Lila obeyed without question, but her voice trembled. "Dad, he's huge." John's grip tightened on his blade. "So are the lies they tell themselves." Vecker spread his arms, claws glinting. "You have slaughtered thousands. You cannot win. Humanity will be punished for your defiance." "Punishment." John's tone was steady, but underneath it was a quiet fire. "You took a child. You thought fear was a weapon that belonged to you." He stepped forward. "You never learned who taught the universe what fear is." Vecker lunged, his massive claw arcing toward John. The human moved faster, sidestepping with inhuman precision. The skull mask flashed once, disorienting the alien. The next instant, John's blade drove into Vecker's arm joint, splitting armor with a hiss of biofluid. Vecker roared, staggering back. His claws swiped again, gouging the wall. "You can't kill me. You're one." John's voice came low, almost whispering. "I don't have to." He pressed his palm against a console. The AI's voice echoed inside his helmet. Neural override complete. Ship's control matrix integrated. The Dominion flagship began to shake. Energy rippled through its systems, hijacked by John's interface. On the planet below, Earth's skies glowed faintly as communication satellites flickered to life, intercepting alien frequencies. From deep within the Earth's atmosphere, other signals began responding, encrypted, ancient protocols buried under layers of defense systems that hadn't been used in decades. Shadow Division awake. Human countermeasure network active. The skies over every continent shimmered with streaks of light, not missiles but drones. Thousands. Millions. the silent weapons of humankind, dormant since the Great Disarmament. Humanity had always feared itself. But fear was a tool, and tonight it remembered how to use it. Vecker staggered forward, disbelief breaking through his rage. "What are you doing?" John's voice was cold. "Teaching you what happens when you hurt a human child." Vecker charged again, fury in every step. He swung with enough force to crush steel. John ducked under the blow, moved inside the alien's reach, and struck. The knife slid between armored plates, clean, precise, final. Vecker collapsed to one knee, gasping as his vision dimmed. "You'll doom your world. You think you've won, but we are Legion." John knelt before him, the mask inches from the Admiral's face. "Then the Legion will remember this." He rose and turned to Lila. "We're leaving." The ship shuddered violently as systems overloaded. The Skull Mask's AI spoke again. "Warning. Structural integrity failing. Recommend immediate evacuation." John lifted Lila into his arms and sprinted toward the hangar. Alien bodies littered the corridors, their once perfect order turned into chaos. Alarms howled across the dying ship, but the path ahead was clear. The aliens were gone, fleeing in panic. When they reached the hangar bay, the viewport revealed Earth glowing beneath them. For a moment, Lila stared at it in silence. "It's so small from up here," she said softly. John glanced at her. "And still the only home we've got." She hugged him tighter. "I knew you'd come." He smiled faintly beneath the mask. "Always." He set her into the dropship seat and activated the launch sequence. Engines roared to life, and the ship began to tremble. Behind them, the Dominion flagship's core overloaded. The AI's voice filled the cabin. "Final command authorization detected. Overload sequence confirmed. Estimated detonation in 30 seconds." John looked at the massive warship one last time, the monument of an empire built on domination, arrogance, and cruelty. "Time for your lesson to end," he said quietly. The dropship launched, tearing away from the mothership's hull as explosions rippled outward. From orbit, the detonation was a silent bloom of blue light. The Dominion's flagship, once the symbol of alien supremacy, fragmented into ash and plasma, scattering across the void. As the dropship re-entered the atmosphere, flames streaked across the hull. Lila watched through the viewport as clouds rushed past, her small hands gripping her father's arm. "Will they come back?" she asked. John's gaze was fixed ahead. "Not soon." "Because they're scared now?" He nodded once. "Because they finally understand." Hours later, the dropship landed on a frozen Icelandic plain. The auroras shimmered above as the hatch opened. John stepped out, carrying Lila against his chest. The mask, now fractured and smoking, hung loosely in his other hand. The wind howled. Snow swirled around them. Humanity's secret had burned itself into the sky tonight, a message written in fire and silence. "Do not take from us what we love." Lila looked up. "Are you going to wear it again?" she asked, pointing to the mask. John stared at it for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "It did its job." He dropped the mask into the snow. The faint glow from its eyes faded out. Lila took his hand. "You scared them." He smiled, weary and human again. "Sometimes fear's the only language monsters understand." They began walking toward the distant glow of Reykjavik's horizon, two small figures against the endless white. Above them, the stars burned quietly, and somewhere far beyond human reach, the Dominion fleets hesitated. Their transmissions were erratic, hushed, uncertain. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the aliens were not advancing. They were listening. And in the dark expanse between galaxies, the story spread, of the child they took, the father who came, and the skull that looked back at them from the dark. Humanity's terrifying secret wasn't a weapon. It wasn't technology. It was the truth that no empire wanted to face. When you make a human afraid, you don't conquer them. You awaken them.